Super, ljudi. Evo nas, idemo još malo uživo. Ako vam se sviđa kanal, zapratite ga da ne propustite ovakve sadržaje.
Rockstar friends, and I'm talking to the panelists, but also to everybody else that's connected around the world. We've got this powerful group of people who are going to be sharing some secrets as to, you see all the fanciness I have behind me? Look at all the fanciness. Superstars that are going to be sharing some of their tips and ideas on how to become a better presenter and what it's done to their business. I've worked with these people for years, and I've admired them for more, some of them for more than we've worked together. But do yourself a favor and make sure that you let your teams know about this conversation, because you're going to hear from Tim Sales, you're going to hear from Tony and Sarahzalecki, Emily Vavra, Loren Lahav, Darnell Self, Stormy Wellington. I see all their smiling faces except for Stormy, but she must be out there somewhere. We'll get her connected in. There she is. There she is. And all of these are amazing, spectacular people. So we've spent the last 3 days talking about the 5 key presentations that every network marketer needs to master. The first being your story, learning how to tell your story. The second being an opportunity presentation that'll work for you and duplicates. Third is a getting started presentation to help launch a new person. Fourth is a training presentation to your team so they develop the skills. And fifth is like a signature talk, a keynote, preparing to really crush a stage, whether you're being invited to speak or by somebody else outside of our profession, or from your company or your Super Saturday or your Zoom, or whenever you need to inspire someone and it doesn't fit in one of the first 4 categories. So what I'd like to do is bring our panel up and let's show a grid of, look at this, these rock stars, and just have each introduce themselves. We'll start to my right, I guess. Tim Sales, why don't you introduce yourself and say hello to everybody?
All right. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect.
Awesome. So honored to be here. And Eric, thank you for putting this on. My name is Tim Sales, as he already told you. And in the profession for 32 years. And I love this topic that he's bringing you all here to watch.
And what's funny is Tim said, when I invited him yesterday, he said, you want to talk about the old school presentation skill? I said, yes, I want to talk because old school is the best school. You got to marry technology with presentations. I believe that pretty little speeches change the world. I believe that our ability to communicate to others has an impact on the planet in major ways. People make decisions based upon these little presentations that'll change their life and change the lives of other people. Tony and Sarahzalecki, why don't you introduce yourselves? You're down in Tampa, Florida. You escaped the frozen tundra of Minnesota.
We are. We're actually in Lynette and Brandon Cunningham's office right now.
Oh, funny.
So, hi, everybody. It's Tony and Sarahzalecki. We have been in the profession 20 years. It's so fun to be with all these guys on this Zoom today. I admire everybody so much. So, we have 2 little kids, so we work our business while raising 2 little munchkins, and we're just this profession saved us, and we met each other in the business too, and it's been incredible.
Yeah, we built our whole business around presentations, and we just love them, and they move the dial. And today's going to be super exciting, and can't wait to share.
Awesome. Darnell Self, one of the most dynamic presenters in network marketing. Introduce yourself to everybody, and then we'll get into the conversation after everybody's introduced themselves.
Sure. Hey, everybody. Great to see you guys and my fellow panelists. Darnell Self. I'm from Maryland. I live about 15 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Married 27 years, have 4 amazing young adults, and we just became empty nesters about a week and a half ago. And we've been in the industry now for 25 years.
Nice.
Wow, wow, wow. Emily Vavra, how you doing,
hey,
sister?
Doing so good. Hey, everyone. What's up? Emily Vavra here from Santa Monica, California. And I've been in the profession just over 10 years, since I was 23 years old. And I am so deeply passionate about this subject that everybody's training on, that you've been learning, because when I first started this business, I was so scared. I didn't want to go talk to people. I didn't want to talk in front of people. I would start sweating, and learning this skill has truly allowed me to become who I believe I was created to be, and just be a more confident, better businesswoman. So I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Loren Lahav.
Hello, Eric, Worre, and everybody. Nice to see you all. I am actually in the back of the truck, right, because my daughter's having her wisdom teeth taken out. So, wow, I'm very excited about this today, about presentation skills, because the first thing I want to say to you is be prepared at all times and be flexible. So I have been in the profession now for 14 years. I had the I'm too cool syndrome for 17 years. I said no. And I am the proud mama of 3, bonus mom to 1. My son is my eldest, is in the profession with us. Presentation skills, as Ellie just said, in life are everything. You know, your kids are going to be called up to do a presentation when they're little, as you guys are learning, doing this all on Zoom. But what I love is I've been in the personal development world for 31 years. And what I love about this profession and how I've been able to use it to really grow my business and help my team grow their businesses are that it takes the theory and put it into action. And that's what our profession does. So thank you for allowing me to be here.
Love it, love it, love it. My rock star friend, Stormy Wellington. How you doing, Stormy?
Hey, hello, Mr. Eric Worre, guys. First of all, I am excited and honored to be here with all of the superstars.
You need to have a bigger ring. Your ring is way too small.
Oh my God! You know what? It's a weapon. It's really a weapon. It's a weapon. But no, I'm really excited to be here. You know, I am who I am because of my story, and I believe that presentations is everything. Knowing how to talk to people, how to connect with people authentically. I'm proud to say I've been in this industry for 12 years. I still feel kind of like a newbie, but a high paid one, if I can say that, because I'm always learning. I never stop learning. I've been able to learn from some of you awesome people. I have 3 amazing kids. My son is one of the most amazing trainers, and he's in the industry as well. So I'm proud of that. You know, we want our kids in network marketing. My daughter, she's 21 years old, just turned 21. I'm proud of her as well. She did 500,000 her first year in network marketing at 20. So, you know, I could tell you that without presenting and knowing how to talk to people, I would not be here where I am right now. So I think this is an amazing topic. I have my pen and paper ready to learn from all of you amazing people. And thank you so much for having me, Mr. Worre.
Oh, I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that everybody's here. And let me just kind of kick this off by saying, when I first got started in the profession, I was not a presenter. My wife hates it when I say this, but I was a body dragger. I would drag people in front of presentations. I would drag people in front of an opportunity meeting. I'd drag people in front of a video. I'd drag people in front of my upline. I just drag people, right? And I used that to borrow their power. And it took me probably a year to even learn how to tell my story, let alone do another part of the presentation. I only told the story because it helped me to drag more people in front of somebody else who was powerful. But everything changed for me when I learned how to be the person that other people drag people in front of. I became that person who my team wanted me to do a home meeting or some face-to-face or get together for lunch or whatever. And step 1 in changing my life, the first part of my career was all about using other people's presentations. The second part was becoming the presentation and being prepared at all times to be the presentation for my team. And the third part was when they learned how. Because when I learned how, my confidence went up. When they learned how, they became independent real quick. You know, you're always dependent if you don't have this presentation skill. Once you have this presentation skill, you're kind of like a Swiss Army knife. You're good to go in any situation. You're ready to kind of perform. So put this into the big group grid, because I don't want this to be an interview and I don't want it to be a presentation from my point of view. What I want this to be is a conversation. So I just want to ask a question to all of you, unmute yourself and have a discussion about this whole topic. And I want to start with the topic of diversity stories, learning how to tell overcoming objection stories, whatever it is. How valuable is story? And whoever wants to start, just go ahead and start.
Everything. Your story is everything. So number one, so you don't verbal vomit on people, type a 1 in the comment if you've ever had a conversation with someone about your network marketing company and you found yourself explaining the ingredients and the products and it's not a pyramid scheme. And oh my gosh, that was me in the beginning. And my mentor was like, you've got to get this thing down in 30 seconds because you're a hot mess. And so learning the story and, you know, what my life was like before I joined, and then what it was like now because of joining, and then where I was going. So a little bit of the vision in there, it was huge, and it allows you to relate to people. And, you know, like us now, we're all 7-figure plus earners. I don't go tell somebody that when I meet them on the street. I tell them, you know, I once felt how you are feeling now, and I connect to them and tell my 30-second story. And that's the way that they actually listen. And we really find that common denominator.
Yes.
Yeah, never mind. Go ahead, Stormy.
No, I was just gonna say, you know, I wasn't a great presenter as well. I remember being afraid. I remember my palms sweating. I used to drag people to the meetings too. But one of the things that made me make the switch was recognizing how much more money the person in front of the room was making versus the person that just bought guests. And so what I specialized in that really helped me, even up to this day, I edify. I believe that, you know, facts tell, stories sell. I'm always finding a story. Like if I see someone, I'll say, oh my God, Eric, or you remind me of one of my partners, you know, Chris Brown. You know, I will compare you to somebody just to start a conversation. And once I start the conversation, I really want you to tell me about you first. And then I go into, like Emily said, my 30-second spiel on a little bit about who I am and how I can relate to whatever you told me in the beginning.
Yeah, I wanted to share a little bit, kind of back it up. First of all, you're so beautiful, both of you ladies, just inside and out. Your spirits, I don't know if you guys can just feel their energy through the screen. But I want to back it up a little bit, just kind of tell you why a story is so important. The two best ways to learn are through stories. The two best ways to learn are actually through stories and by putting people in an experience, right? It's kind of like, I don't know what everybody's business is, you know, with regards to it, but like if you're in the health business and having a party where people are making things, and that's how people learn the most. And just like what Stormy said, you know, stories sell, facts tell, and put a heart there in the chat if you love to hear a good story. Some of you like to, you know, you go on YouTube and you can't wait to hear. Like I was just, like I told you, my daughter is getting all 4 of her wisdom teeth out, and I go to Starbucks and the guy's like, make sure you put it on YouTube, you know, and then because it talks about, I guess, how funny people are after they've had their wisdom teeth taken out. So think about, though, how we are all driven by stories, right? We love to tell each other stories. We love to express that. And so it's very organic for our business because, like we say, we're always paid storytellers. And Eric, I was kind of like you as well. Even though I'd been in the personal development world and done presentations for a long time, we say concepts are constant, you know, techniques vary. And your story is your truth. You can't, that's your truth. So it's our responsibility, I would say, to share your truth, especially with regards to, no one can say your story's not right, right? Like, that's you. That's who you are. So that's what I just wanted to share.
It's great.
I love that. So one of the things Lauren, I love what you talk about when you hear about, people that tell great stories. And I think most of you guys know, so Eric is my cousin, and I always tell people when I do a training, I talk about, think about that one person in your life that's like the most amazing storyteller, and you're like, just tell me another story, right? And Eric's dad, my Uncle John, is the most amazing storyteller, and I always use him in my training because I'm like, guys, that's a person who you want to become. And, I think about when I first got started in this profession, I was 21 years old. I was a nanny. Oh my gosh. I had no idea what I was doing. And I'll never forget the very first time they asked me to go in front of the room and introduce the guest speaker. I just about lost it. And I'll never forget, like, I walked up the right side of the room. I walked up to the front. I turned around. I barely even knew what to say. And I edified horribly. I basically said, hey, the guy's the bomb. And I kept walking off, walked out, right out the door of the presentation. I was gone. They're like, where'd she go? I literally went in, out, I was gone. Like, I don't even know what happened to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. And one of the things that I learned that helped me so much is I decided that I was going to become, like, my job, like if I had a job description, was to become a story collector. And that's what I did. And so I actually have journals to this day, 20 years later. I have a journal that on the top says story. And everywhere that I go, the one thing that people know me for is when I talk to them, I say, hey, tell me your story. Like, what's your story, right? And I collect stories. I have so many stories of people because I'll tell you, in the beginning, I didn't think my story was that great because I needed to go through personal development, understand, like, my story matters. But at that time, I wasn't there yet emotionally and as far as maturity. And so I just collected everybody else's stuff. And so even to this day, like, I have an arsenal of stories that I can share with anybody because I know that everybody's not going to relate to me and people are going to relate to Tim and Darnell and Stormy and Emily and maybe not to me, right? And so I think it's important, guys, like, in your mind, you should always be going, how many stories can I collect? And still to this day, I always ask people, so what's your story, right? Tell me your story. And those stories have really been a huge part of why we've been able to build a big business, is because of that.
Yeah, I also think too, objections is a big part of what we do every day. And I remember I was brand new in the business, and I would just learn to speak in stories. Like, no matter what objection came my way, no matter what happened to me in that moment, I knew that I could tell a story, whether it was a product story, a success story, a company story, a training story, a news story of someone just getting started. Like, I had stories, and stories then helped me, eliminate the fear. And I had the confidence, and I basically could go out there and hold a conversation, handle an objection, and really get people moved from point A to point B through stories. So one thing I always did is I said, you know what, I'm going to speak in stories, I'm going to collect stories, and I'm going to have more stories that I can use at every single moment. And that's what saved me early on in my business.
Yeah, I agree. Tim, go ahead. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
No. I'm not going to interrupt you, but I don't want to go after you either. So I'm kind of. Go ahead, sir.
All right. I appreciate that, man. I agree with Tony. I use stories for everything. Every day I tell stories. There's not a day. I can't think of a day in my business where I don't tell a story, right? Because we all say the stories sell. And what's a sell? A sell is a transfer of belief. And so stories transfer belief. And if that's the case, then folks are just lacking belief. And so I instill belief with a story, right? That's what I'm selling. And so if someone says, hey, I'm too old, as Tony said, I've got a 66-year-old story. I've got a 78-year-old story I can tell. If someone says, hey, look, I just feel like this business isn't working for me, I'll say, well, why would you say that? Well, I haven't recruited anybody. And I say, well, great. And I can tell them a story of someone who was in for 11 months before they recruited their first person who's a millionaire today, right? So, I've just got stories for everything. It handles objections. It empowers people. It uplifts people when they're down. And so, of course, our own stories. So the key is to know your audience. That way you're telling the right story. So if I'm meeting with a bunch of older people, I'm not going to talk about millennial stories. If I'm meeting with millennials, I'm not going to talk about older stories. And so but I have an arsenal of stories. And so the key is not just to know your own story, because that's key, but what if the person can't relate to what your experience has been? Like if you made $1 million year 3, which is not my story, then that you can't tell that to the person who's barely keeping 3 people in their team active, because it doesn't inspire them. In fact, it discourages them. But then if I'm looking for someone that says, can it move fast? And I'm going to tell them Stormy Wellington's daughter's story, right? Because like, look, we got people in our profession that make $500,000 their first year. So you've got all these stories. So as you all can tell, I'm collecting stories even from you guys. But so I just use stories for everything. Even when I don't know the facts, people don't say, hey, you didn't answer my question. They feel great that I just told them a story, not realizing I didn't even answer their question because I didn't know the answer, but I knew a story that could empower them. So, over to you, Tim.
That's good.
All right, awesome job. Okay, so for any of you that are sitting here and you're saying, well, I don't have a story, I want to talk to you. So number one is the first time I ever stood up in front of anybody, it was in my church, and I was about 13 years old. And I was supposed to just say something, my story. And I froze up, and the preacher ended up telling the story. And so I would go off and I would defuse bombs. And then I came back, I got into network marketing, and I was sitting on the front row learning, and somebody handed me a mic and said, introduce yourself. You're one of the fastest growing people. And I turned around and I literally could not believe how many eyeballs were on me. And I froze absolutely solid. And the lady said, okay, so we're going to move on to Rick while he figures out his name. And she sat me down and she moved on. And so hopefully you don't have that experience that I did, but nonetheless, if you do, you can move beyond it. All right. So I remember every single person who would step up, they would say, I would never join network marketing. I always thought it was this and this and this. And so that was the way that they began their story. And I felt as though that I couldn't participate because I had never heard of network marketing. I thought Amway was a train. Amtrak, Amway. I was in Washington, D.C. at the time. And so I just thought that I couldn't even do it because I didn't have the same story as everybody else. And I don't have a story to begin with. And so the first thing that I would suggest is for you to create your future story, which is I went from this to this to this, because that story you're going to be telling forever. And so I noticed that when people would stand up, they would always talk about where they were. Okay, so this is where you want to be, right? So that's how you start your story. And then after you're where you are now, and then this is what I wanted, but blank is preventing me. Add that to your story, because this is a Rubik's Cube. I can tell you, that's what communication is that I have a picture in my mind. I tell you about that Rubik's Cube. That's all communication will ever be. But I can put emotion into this color. I can put emotion here. I can put fear here. I can put love here. Like I can put a lot around that Rubik's Cube, and that's all a story ever is your passion, your feelings around how I felt before, during, and now. And what my goal is now is having others do the same. Okay, so that I hope will kind of share with you. Number one, don't ditch it just because you collapse the first time you're ever in front of somebody. Number two is you're going to get better and better at your story. Start telling it now, even to your grandmother, to your mother, to everybody else. Tell the story, right? Because you're going to refine those points that hit or don't hit. So I'll turn it back to you, Eric.
I got something to say about you, Tim. Can I
go
say
ahead.
something about Tim? Can I just say something about Tim? I don't know if I hope everybody's got a journal, because you should always have a journal with you. But did you guys hear and put a heck yeah, you go, man, is that he told a story within a story, like his story, because you want to include, I mean, you guys, I would love your thoughts on this, but your life story is so important. So him sharing about when he was in church as a little boy, I mean, that's a great story that maybe go, man, I heard this guy, Tim Sales, speak, and he was really nervous about giving this talk. I could really relate to that. So borrow his story within the story of what he was telling you, why stories are so important. Tim, I don't know. I just thought that was a really cool example of all stories matter,
Good catch.
Anyway.
Yeah, let me give you a couple tips, and then I want to open up again, and I want to ask a specific question. I want to give you a couple tips on presentation. One, I was coached by a person that said, never give any presentation without a specific purpose. So what is the theme of that presentation? It should be clear, it should be obvious, and your audience should know what it is, whatever that theme is. So if you're going to give a keynote, you're going to give a training, you're going to give an opportunity, whatever it is, you're going to tell your story. What's the theme? Think about the theme before you start, because some people just start talking and they're all over the board. If you have a theme, the audience can mentally grab onto it and they can connect. The second part of presentation that all great presenters do is at the end of every presentation, they have an assignment, a very specific call to action, a very specific assignment. It doesn't just finish and they don't know where to go. The theme leads to the assignment. So if you're telling a story without an assignment at the end, you're missing 80% of the value. If you're giving a presentation without an assignment at the end, if you're overcoming an objection without an assignment at the end, if you're doing a keynote without an assignment at the end, you're missing 80% of the value. So anytime you're thinking about opening your mouth and communicating in any way, you should have a theme, number one, and an assignment in mind, number two. And even if, and my presenter friends will know this, sometimes you don't start with an assignment in your head, but you find it during your presentation. You find it somewhere in the conversation that you're having, or you start with one in mind, but it turns into something else by the time you get to assignment time. So those two things, as far as just little hooks, if I'm coaching you on presentation at all, two things: theme. Make sure that when you're done talking, everybody should be able to know what the theme was. And two, what's the assignment? You're not giving them value unless you put legs to what it is that you're talking about at the end of every presentation. So the reason why I asked these people, and I have, I don't know, 50 to 100 of my friends that I would trust my stage to. I mean, if I had 250,000 people, which we're planning on having a GoPro at the end of this year, on my stage, and I was not available, I would be comfortable without any preparation to say to any one of these people, you take the stage, and I know you're going to treat this audience incredibly well. So that's why I invited this group. What I would like to open up this discussion by asking, what has becoming a good presenter? Because these people, just so you know, these people are invited around the world to speak on stages around the world. These people are invited by their company. They're invited by their teams. They're begged by their team, please come give us a presentation. They're the ones that they're most popular to do Zooms and whatever. Invited on television. They're invited on all kinds of media. What has becoming a good presenter meant to your network marketing career? Like, I want you to almost think about, if you weren't a good presenter, but you were a good network marketer, you had all the skills but presenting, where would your career be right now? What is becoming a good presenter meant to you? And how strongly would you encourage somebody who wants to build a career here to, whatever they got to do, figure this skill out? I'll open it up to whoever.
Wow. That is a question. Oh my goodness. Well, like I said in the beginning, I struggled with speaking. I was scared of it. And I learned in the beginning, I heard the saying, the person with the microphone makes the most money, and that's where the real freedom lies. And so I'm like, okay, I got to do whatever it takes to get to the front of the room. And so initially, you know, I wasn't a fast builder. I was developing my skills in my early 20s, and I just started to find creative ways to get in front of the room. I would ask my mentor, can I introduce you? And then the next regional event, can I explain a couple of the products? And I really just started asking, and that practice led to more practice, led to more confidence. And now today, some days I'm on NBC. I did just talk to Forbes 2 days ago. Like, I live a life that most would dream of because I was willing to get over myself and practice more than most. And I will tell you that when speaking, like, initially, it is scary. You're nervous. You're in your head and not in your heart. But the more you do it, and you're intentional about the words that you say, like Eric was saying, you have a plan of what you're going to say. And you don't just waltz up there and throw something together quick. Like, you literally, for me, it's my responsibility when I'm on somebody else's stage, someone else's news. Like, I want to be a giver of great value. And so I put a lot of intention into it, into the theme, and really, for me, prayer beforehand, getting my mindset right. And that way, when I speak to you, I can drop into my heart and not be in my head all the time. And that's when you move the needle. That's when you make real change. And for me personally, I think about my life, this question that Eric just asked, and I don't even know where I would be. I wouldn't be living my life on purpose like I am today. I wouldn't be living a bold life. I wouldn't have the income, which is a great side benefit, but I definitely wouldn't have the impact. And so every single time I've been afraid to do something, I take it off of me and I think about the person whose life is going to be changed on the other side of it. And that has just propelled me to move forward every single day, imagining you and the words you're going to hear from me being bold. And so that's what I would ask you to think about. If you're in your head about speaking, get over yourself. If you really want to make an impact, whoever wants to make an impact, type in the comments if you want to make an impact. Or are you just pretending, right? Get over yourself and start to get in the game and practice, and know that every single one of us looked messy in the beginning. And we still have moments where we're messy, but we learn a lot quicker and get better a lot quicker. And when the more you do it, you guys, the greater it's going to become, the easier it's going to become. And you're going to be asked, for your team, hey, can you share? Can you share? Can you share? And you just create more influence, more impact, more money.
Who else?
All right. That was amazing. Okay, I'm going to have to come right in.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I have to, because she hit a point where it was my biggest epiphany of my whole network marketing career, which is anytime that I'm afraid, it's because I'm looking inward. I'm not extroverting. And there was a time where a guy came, it was after I had written Brilliant Compensation, and a whole lot of people had viewed that, and he wanted to hire me to train him. And I'm like, look, I've never trained this. And so I'm not going to really teach you. I'm not going to charge you. And so I go there. He was going to be doing this address at some event. And so I was looking for him. When I got there, I couldn't find him. And I said, hey, have you seen, and I gave his name, and he said, yeah, he's backstage. And so I walked back there, and he was like walking with intention, and then turning around, he'd like, and he would go another one and back and forth. And I walked up and I said, I go, what are you doing, man? And he goes, I'm getting myself in state. And I go, okay, come here. And I grabbed him and I walked him out and I said, I want you to walk up to at least 20 people and say, what do you most want to hear today? And what do you most not want to hear today? Just go up to about 20 people and listen to them. Get out of your head. You're here to serve people. That's your only purpose of being here. You are not here to look great. That's not what this is about. You will relate to them and you will be awesome to the degree that they know you care. And so, Eric, to answer your question, Emily nailed it from my perspective, which is you become something so much greater than you for being a presenter, because it proves you've gone exterior to focusing on yourself. So that's all I got.
Wow.
Sarah, hit it. Let's go. Hold on. Let's go Sarah next, and then Stormy, then Loren.
Okay, awesome. I don't mind. I'm getting such good stuff. So Eric, when you asked that question, the number one thing that came to me is that what presenting has done for my network marketing business is it allowed me to be a clear communicator. I think it's so important. I look back at my business in the beginning, even probably the first 5 to even 10 years, I could grow a team, a little bit of a team, but then I always struggled. I could never get it to the next level. And I realized I was so afraid of presenting. I mean, I would have everybody else present. And like you, I'm like, hey, I can pack the room, right? And because of that, like I never became a good communicator with my team. And because I didn't learn how to do a presentation or wasn't willing at the time, and sometimes would try to wing it, which we all know never works. And I wasn't prepared. The minute that I finally decided, well, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to get clear on my message. I'm going to, go and do a presentation. Like I really kind of just carried that into building a team, which was, we all want to build a big team, right? And let's face it, there's a lot of personalities and a lot of like juggling and figuring out like, how do I like raise leadership, right? And so for me, it just allowed me to become very clear communicator where, even nowadays my team's like, wow, you over communicate. I'm like, yes, I do. Because I want us all to be on the same page and understand how to work with personalities, right? And how to do that. It's definitely a science. And I look at, there is a direct correlation with becoming a great presenter, with being able to be a great communicator, to develop and grow and scale a big team.
Love it. Stormy.
Awesome. Well, first of all, everybody is saying kind of like the same thing. And so I'm listening to Sarah, I'm listening to Emily, I'm listening to Tim. I'm like, hey, I was going to say that. I feel that same way. And so it's beautiful. Like we all really do think the same. But I think one of the things that I listened to that I had to say, wait a minute, I'm the opposite. When I used to go outward in, more so concerned with the audience and not really in tune with what I need to deliver as a message, that for me was when I was nervous, and that's when I did not deliver a clear message. But when I start going inside out, because I believe influence comes from within. I believe that influence is when you move in spirit. And so when I started to change from trying to present, to sell to the audience, but to deliver a clear message, like what I heard Sarah say, everything changed. I went from going from my head to my heart. I tell my team all the time that what I do now is hard work versus hard work. In the beginning, it was hard work. Now it's more leading with my heart. And so when I'm able to speak from my heart, speak from experience, speak from really, I recall, and I don't want to miss this part. I recall going to meetings or listening to calls, and I never would understand what the presenter was saying. Like it would be one or two little catchphrases that would get me excited, but their communication wasn't very clear, as Sarah stated. And so I remember kind of picking apart, not critiquing, but I remember picking apart saying, why didn't she say it like this? And why didn't he say it like this? Because that was so complicated. And the vocabulary and the vernacular is way too far-fetched. People don't get it. And so I started to dummy down my presentation style. Y'all heard, I'm sure everybody have heard KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And so I really do keep it simple, stupid. And I think that's one of the reasons why people understand the way I communicate more than even the most, because I try to be very simple. So I really think a few things that would be important that everybody could take away is, number one, I believe go inside. Like what is in your heart? When you're trying to plagiarize or trying to compete with somebody else or trying to sell the audience, then I think you lose your authenticity. that's when I think you get nervous. But when you organize your thoughts before you go on the stage, before you go in front of the room, and you know what you want the final understanding to be, and you deliver it clearly, I just think magic happens. And then I believe that your heart is the best way to deliver a message, because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So when they can feel you're genuine and care, even if you mess up and may not be as accurate, they feel the compassion and the love, and they want to listen to you and they want to lean in because of how you're delivering your message. So that has worked for me over the years, you know, even now, making sure I don't try to overcomplicate things, because I want to make sure everybody gets it, has been one of the most effective things, and making sure my heart leads first in my head.
Let me pivot for a second before we continue, because I think it was kind of a silly question, because everybody, their business changed when they became great presenters. Every single one of you. If you were not a great presenter, there's this myth of, oh, you know, I'm just a behind the scenes person. I don't need to be a good communicator, and I want to see my people up there. You know, yeah, that's fine. But if you're not up there too, you can cut your income by 80%. You got to be up there too. You got to figure out a way to do it too, I think. I'd like to pivot, and I'll ask the questions, and I'll give one tip myself. But I would like to just ask all of you for your presentation hacks. What are all the different things, tips, tools, advice, strategy that you would give to this audience to become better presenters? You know, what little strategies? Like I gave a couple. One is pick a theme anytime you're talking, collect stories, have an assignment at the end of any kind of presentation. I don't care what it is, even if it's a phone call, you should have an assignment. The other one that Stormy touched on, one of my first kind of personal development mentors was Jim Rohn. And many of you might not know who Jim Rohn is. He's passed away, but he was the man when it comes to simplification. And he always had little frame, and you can see his signature in so much of what I do in presentation, because he always said there's about a half a dozen things that matters in anything. So you'll find, you know, whether it's 7 skills or 5 presentation strategies or 3 steps to this or an ABCD or a 4-step formula to answering objections or whatever, I'm always looking for simplicity. I will tell you, the best communicators and the best presenters find a way to reduce it down and to the core of what really matters. And they make that simple thing understandable. Instead of sounding fancy and cool and, you know, Jim used to say, my goal is not to impress you. My goal is to turn this conversation into your action. I'm here for legacy. I'm not here for standing ovations. I'm here for your future. I'm not here for some, you know, glitzy thing. So he was always trying to burn a groove into your own brain, so you left there different. And I try to do the same thing in all of my work. So for each of you, what tips and strategies do you have? Whether a person's a beginner, intermediate, advanced, what strategies to become a better communicator, a better presenter, a better person of influence and persuasion? And let's start with a couple that didn't talk the last time, maybe Darnell and Loren. Why don't you guys go ahead?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Eric. You know, first of all, I'm sorry, Loren. You want to go first?
No, go ahead. All
Okay.
good. No, go ahead.
Okay,
You're
cool.
good.
So let me say this. More often than not, shoot, I'm still nervous before I present. Like, I mean, it's just a controlled nervousness. Before, I mean, I've fallen on stage before. My legs have been shaking so hard that you can see it inside the pant leg. That's when you know you're shaking hard, when you can see the pant leg moving. And so I'm not nervous in that way anymore. But I'm still like, oh my gosh. And I think because I want to, it's not because I hadn't planned on what I'm going to say. It's because I want to make sure I'm making the impact. People have spent their money, their time, they've sacrificed. I'm like, man, I really want what I say to land on them right. So I say that because vulnerability would be the first hack. Because most of the folks watching this right now, I guarantee you, are nervous before they get on stage. So what I just did was share my vulnerable side. Because most folks aren't getting on stage like, oh, I'm about to kill this, who are watching this. So if you know your audience, they're forgiving when they realize that, oh, I see why they're saying the things they say in the way they said it. They've been told by their teachers and parents they'll never be anything. And now look at them coming out of the person they were labeled as this new person. So vulnerability has always been key for me because it allows folks to say, oh, wow, man, I can relate. The second thing, Eric, you said, what has really changed, man, it allowed me to have a sense of urgency. How are you urgent when you got to wait on somebody else? Right? I've got to say, I've got to wait on them to present. I've got to wait. And so the urgency thing is just key for me because it allows me to say, hey, listen, we can do it today at 2 o'clock. Right? Because I'm in control of my presentation. Otherwise, I'm always waiting on somebody else to present for me. And I know we use third-party tools, but get my point. So urgency has been everything for me. And the last thing I would share is that how can I, if I'm overcoming my biggest fear, let's say your biggest fear is presentation, and I'm overcoming my biggest fear, how can I tell my team, face your fears, move, and they know I'm still not a presenter. I haven't been a presenter for 5 years. So for you to come out of the person who you used to be empowers your team to come out of whatever their fears are, even if it's in presentation. So I think, in fact, I know everyone here becoming a presenter who's watching this will do more than just increase your presentation skill, do more than just what my fellow panelists said, right? It's actually going to have a ripple effect in many other areas because you have exhibited courage. And people want to follow courageous leaders, not leaders who are hiding, because leaders who are hiding aren't taking them anywhere. So just wanted to share that.
And before Loren jumps in, let me tell a quick story because she's part of this story. I get invited to speak, and I'm normally not nervous. I feel like I've got 33 years worth of library. I'm good, right? I'm ready to crush it. I get invited to speak at a Success Partners event. Is that what it was called? Success Partners? Anyway, Loren is the host. They've got Tony Robbins. They've got all these big shot speakers, and it's at the Orleans here in Las Vegas. Okay. So it's not a network marketing crowd. They invite me to speak. They're paying me $100,000 to come speak for an hour. Okay, cool. So I come over, I'm ready to go, and they tell me I'm coming on after Tony Robbins. Okay, no problem. I'm going to crush this crowd. This crowd's not even know what hit it. After they're done jumping up and down, I'm going to tell them about network marketing. I'm going to have them, totally change their life. This is going to be amazing. Well, I get there, and it is probably 52 degrees in this arena. It's on top of an ice rink. They got like boards on the bottom, but it's cold. It's really cold. People in the audience are bundled up and they have scarves. We're in Nevada, okay? Scarves, mittens. They're freezing. They started at 7 a.m. that day. Tony was supposed to be done at 4. He finished around 6. They'd started at 7 a.m. They're all ice cubes. They're all frozen. He finishes his there's like 6,000 people in the audience. He finishes his presentation, and then they announce he's going to take photos with people in the hallway outside when he's done with his presentation. So Loren goes up to introduce me. In the meantime, 6,000 people, I kid you not, turn into like 75 people in a stadium. And I'm like, you want to get humbled? Oh my God, you want to get humbled and you want to have a defining moment? Now I'm like, what do I do? Do I take all these people to In-N-Out Burger and just call it a day? What do I do to figure this thing out? So I go up on stage, and I'm not joking. There's 4 people over here in this whole section. There's 8 people over here that are bundled up. And of the less than 100 people, I'm sure half of them were just there out of kindness, even though they were frozen and hungry. Okay. So what do? I'll tell you what I did. I pretended. I remembered a presentation or a line out of a book from Steve Martin. And he did his whole bit that says, never let them know you're bombing. Never let them know. If you're bombing, just don't even acknowledge it. Just act like you're killing it. Act like you're absolutely crushing off the chart. I like, okay, this is weird. And everybody in the room knows it's weird, but I'm going to pretend like this stadium is full. And I'm going to present for my hour like a pro as an example for this group and also for myself, like this stadium is full. So that's what I did. I'm walking around, I'm high-fiving people, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing everything possible to not talk about how weird this is. And afterwards, I literally almost couldn't move. I was so exhausted. I was so, like, you ever after a presentation when you're like heavy, you're just like gravity gets heavier. This was like quadruple gravity. This is like G-force type stuff. But I was proud of myself. And there was a lesson for somebody in that audience to be able to see, what do you do in the face of extraordinary circumstance, right? And I also said, if I could do that, I could do anything. Because literally like 3 months later, Tony and I and Pitbull were doing an event for 45,000 people in the middle of Germany. Biggest event Tony'd ever spoken to, biggest event I'd ever spoken to. And we did have the full arena, you know? We did have that all that energy and all that power and all that stuff. But I say that to say, normally I'm not nervous, but sometimes the circumstance causes you to stretch and causes you to be a little bit humble. I guess I'm not Tony Robbins when they're freezing after 12 hours, you know, and they're hungry. You know what I mean? So anyway, I say all that because, you know, it reminded me when Darnell was talking about the nervousness of speaking, and also when I knew Loren was going to speak next and she was the host. But Loren, what's some of your hacks? Because you facilitate Tony's mastery program and you travel around the world hosting different things. You're invited on all different kinds of stages. What hacks do you have for people?
Wow. That day, I remember that day very well. And I've had many of those days. Thank you. First of all, Eric, I wanted to thank you of how much I know it means for me and everybody else that you know that you could trust us. I just got back from facilitating Tony's first virtual life mastery program. And Darnell, guess what happened? I was rocking, like I was working that. I was like, you know, working that camera was a whole new thing for me. And guess what happened? I fell right there, right? I was like, and it's like you said, like, it's not that I didn't know what to do, but because I had conditioned myself to have a tool belt with so many tools, I was able to say, I felt, I go, yeah, but I'm getting back up. Life's all about getting back up, right? So I would say a big thing that we always talk about is the person that's most resourceful always wins. So whether that be keeping a journal, like what Sarah said, I have so many journals of stories is such an important thing. I would say also like stretch exercises, things you can do, videos that you could play. I've some of the best people I've seen. I think I learned this from Robin Benacosta. I don't know if anybody's seen. I saw her once speak, and I'm like, she was speaking for 2.5 hours. And then I looked, I'm like, man, she's only really speaking for 30 minutes, but she was utilizing like stories that engage people, videos, all of these different things. So you know, even though you're present, you know, you might be doing, you want to move people emotionally. Like the best people, I believe, they move people emotionally. I mean, how many of you right now have been moved emotionally from what some of these guys have shared, guys and gals have shared? So here's what I would say, just like Stormy and everybody else, keep it simple, but have a big toolbox of things. So the biggest challenge I see people do is they're not in rapport. They're not in rapport. Like Daryl was sharing, he's not going to share a story that doesn't relate to that audience. So you've got to really know your audience and get in rapport with them. Some people might use humor as rapport. Some people might use storyist reports. Some people might do an exercise. Sometimes people might ask questions. So do what you can to be, to get in rapport with people. And the other thing I say, once again, is be you. You know, I am so freaking, I mean, it is exhausting. Like Eric said, I've had the honor of launching Tony's program 19 years ago. And I remember saying, oh my God, and you might feel this way in network marketing, because I am so grateful for this profession, because I would see people come to events and they go, well, she's only 5'2" teaching that. And I'm like, I want to teach other people to do this. I don't want to just be the only one. I mean, it's nice that people look at me, but I want to teach other people. And when the opportunity, someone came to me about network marketing and they said, Loren, you can teach other people to do what you do and actually make money doing it. I'm like, I'm in. I'm all in. Like, if I can teach others to do this and help them make money doing it and create, share their stories and then me share their stories. The other thing that I would say is like ABCs: awareness, authenticity, build rapport. Eric talks about this, but the best trained team always wins, but the best trained person always wins too. All of us are always learning. We're here, we're taking notes. Eric talked about, the 5 points of a perfect presentation. That's with anything. It's not just with it. It's that introduction. It's that story. It's the elements. It's that summary. It's that call to action. And then really self-confident, like knowing who you are and that you're here to serve. I remember when I felt like I had all this information, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to learn. And Tony said to me, he goes, Loren, I go, why'd you bring me here? There are people over there more qualified, have more skills. And he goes, I knew you'd take care of these people. So for all of you watching, if you keep it simple, if you learn that presentation skill, practice in front of your freaking kids' Barbie dolls. That's how I started. Duplication, right? Barbie, 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 Barbie. And then it worked up to the stuffed animals. But those are some of the things. And I'm a wild card, but I wanted to make sure that I kept it all, attention all Kmart shoppers, really let people know that it was easy if they followed the system that works. So coming up, having a bunch of journals, keeping, what videos can you pull out of your tank at sometimes? What music, how can you get some interaction, but know how to really read a room and practice everywhere. Practice it when you go into a restaurant of how to read the room. What are people doing? So that awareness is key.
Let me give you a couple quick hacks, and then we'll keep going with the conversation. Thank you, Loren. A hack for live presentation. Present to the back row. Don't present to the front row. All the rookies and amateurs, they're always selling to the first and second and third row. Sell to the back row, and the rest of the audience will feel connected with. Secondly, make sure you're looking right, center, left. You're trying to make eye contact with as many people in the room as possible. So sell to the back row, make eye contact with as many people as you possibly can. And if you're like me, you need to remember to smile on occasion, because the smile really matters. I get serious. I get into my head, and I forget to smile. When you smile, it opens the entire energy of the room. So remember to do that. And the other thing I would tell you, quick hack, before we go open it back up to conversation, is the presenters on the panel will know this. Some of your best stuff will come as a result of you talking about something else. And so like if you're doing a presentation, all of a sudden you'll come up with something that's so awesome that you're just like, wow, that's just super, super cool. Make sure that you write that down as soon as you're done. Capture that. Don't let that just disappear in the ether. Capture that great way of saying it, that great turn of phrase, that great 1, 2, 3, because you'll find that you're a pretty good coach to yourself. When you're presenting, there's good stuff that's going to come out. Make sure you capture the good stuff. You archive that so you can use it again. Okay? Quick little hacks. So who's next?
Eric, I got a couple of things real quick.
Go.
I think, when you're doing your presentation, we're so worried about screwing it up. And, we go, man, we don't want to look stupid. And here's the thing. We all screw things up, and the person that's listening to your presentation, that brand new person, they don't know if you screwed it up or not, right? They don't know exactly if, you know, everything you said was exactly what you were supposed to say. Like, they don't know. And I think that was a big thing for me, where it was like, I was so worried about messing up about the company or the comp plan or about whatever I was teaching and training on, when the reality was that brand new person didn't know anyways, that was listening to my presentation. So I just let that go. And then the second thing is that sometimes the most powerful presentations are shorter presentations. And what happens is we think that we have to keep talking and keep going, and you know, that presentation should have ended and you had everybody and you went 10 more minutes and lost everybody. So just know that, you know, end it shorter sometimes is way better than longer.
Have you ever found you're listening to somebody and they go to close and then they open it up again, and then they go to close and they open it up again, they go to close and then they open it up. You're like, just close. If you find yourself in that little loop of trying to come up with a clever close, just finish it. Sometimes it's just what you need to do. Just get it over with. Just be done with it. The other thing I would tell you, it's okay to put yourself in potentially embarrassing situations and handle it. It's okay to be authentic and raw, so long as, and write this down, so long as you don't treat yourself so seriously. If you treat yourself so seriously that it's all about you, then when you make a mistake, you spend the rest of the presentation apologizing for it. I normally don't do this, and I normally am more prepared. Blah, 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 blah. It's not about you. Just laugh and go, wow, I screwed that up. If you treat yourself super seriously, that embarrassing situation is exponentially worse. If you can laugh at yourself and you can smile, that embarrassing situation is part of what builds connection and rapport. Okay? So, you know, treat yourself with respect, but also, come on, this is not like curing cancer. We're here to talking about it's, you know, something that might be beneficial to somebody else, and have some fun while we do it. So lighten up. You know, what Jeff Roberti used to say, lighten up and your sales will brighten up. Lighten up. Just chill, smile. All right, back to the panel.
So I actually have two quick hacks that I love. So one of the things that helps us a lot to remember to stay on point with what we're going to talk about is we love props. I love to have fun in presentations. So for us, we love props because it helps us anchor a point. You know, one thing that we always learned is that, with every story, you have to have a point. With every point, you need to have a story, right? And so for us, we love the props. Some of you guys saw, like when we did the 7-day challenge with Eric, we talked about the bus driver, right? We wore the bus driver hats. I am still getting messages today about going, oh my God, the bus driver, that was awesome, right? But for us, it kept it fun. It helped us nail the story. People got the point. They're like, I get it now. I get what I'm supposed to be doing when it comes to inviting. So we love to use props in our presentations. We think for us, it's super fun. It's interactive. People remember that. And the other tip that I would say is whether you are doing a live video, whether you're presenting in front of, a lot of people. For me, I always keep it simple no matter what. I always tell myself in my mind that I'm sitting across the table from someone, having a cup of coffee, having a glass of wine, and telling the story. And that has helped me so much when it comes to just calming my nerves. A lot of times people are like, oh, I feel like you're like the girl next door and you're just really normal. Because in my mind, what I act like is I'm just hanging out with you. I'm just sharing, right? Versus, getting all anxious of I'm going in front of the stage, I'm talking to a gazillion people. For me, I'm super laser focused where I'm just focusing on one person. And that really, really helped me with presentations.
Tim, why don't you hit it next? Got to unmute yourself, bro.
All right. I was taking notes when you guys were talking. So a couple of hacks for me is I remember when I was doing, so I started out, and this is the first one, which is the gradient of getting in front of an audience, which would be that I had a stuffed animal named Buckshot, named after my real Labrador Retriever, Buckshot. and I would set the animal up and I would talk to it. Okay, because I had this problem about communicating at a distance. And so my conversation would just kind of die off because I was so introverted on pronunciation of words because I came from the South and I just had this, I don't know, I didn't pronounce things right. And so I ended up setting it up and putting a tape recorder all the way across the table, and I would communicate to it over there. All right. And so then I just went from that to doing one-on-ones, to doing two-on-ones, to doing in-homes, to doing, and I just kept getting a larger and larger audience, and it curved, it cut the edges off, if you will. So that was one hack in trying to get it out there. The other thing is
before you go to your next hack, can I just share one thing real quick?
Sure. One
of the best communicators I ever witnessed was a guy by the name of Glenn W. Turner. And Glenn W. Turner, he started a network marketing company way back in the 70s, Dare to Be Great. This guy, hair lip, super crazy hair lip accent, the worst hairpiece you could ever imagine on top of a person's skull. And this guy could slay any room. And whether it's watching what he did, and he didn't talk about that at all, or Schwarzenegger coming into the United States not being able to speak the English language that well, or whatever it happens to be. Whatever the thing is that's causing you to not speak so much might be the reason you need to speak more. And if it's an accent, if you look different than what you think you want to look like, if you're too fat, you're too skinny. I was at this sculptor's studio yesterday. McDonald, the guy who does all the sculptures here in Las Vegas. And he has a sculpture of a lady who's probably 250 pounds. Okay. She's like this, breasts are hanging out. She's naked, right? The sculpture of it, a big belly, big thighs, whatever. And it's all pride and attitude. And it's just one of his most popular sculptures because, you could see that Cirque du Soleil dancer. That's inspiring. But so is pride in whatever situation you find yourself in. So I just wanted to say, like he was saying, he was insecure about him saying, maybe not pronouncing words exactly properly. Whatever you think is your shortcoming might be your strength. It might be the thing that causes you to be different than any other person. So stop thinking you need to be perfect. Accentuate whatever it is you've got, and the world will take notice. So sorry to interrupt your flow, but I had to throw that in. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, awesome. That was a great story. Okay, so then I had to merge into a camera. When I did Brilliant Compensation, it was a video for those of you who have never heard of it. It got about 44 million people downloaded it. It had to do with network marketing. And when back in the old days, and that was a reel-to-reel tape, okay? It was real tape that you had to splice, put a piece of tape over it in order to edit something, right? And so I got in front of the camera and I was so frozen. I had never seen something that kept going, like it was like auto zooming on me, and it was doing that. And as I was looking into it, and for those of you who ever saw it, I want you to know that it was $20,000 half a day in order to record it. And I was trying to get it done in half a day. I'm like, good grief, I've done this presentation 10,000 times. I can do it. And I was so upset about that thing. And I had these camera guys these lighting guys like this, and this person over here is doing this, and all these people watching me. And I couldn't, I would say, my name is Tim Sales, and I couldn't say it. Probably 80 takes. I'm Tim Sales. I live in Woodland Hills, California, right? I couldn't say it. All right. So I ended up telling everybody to go out by the pool, and I just scooted my chair up right in front of the lens of the camera and just stared at it. It's me and you, man. Me and you. And I just stared at that camera for half a day. $20,000 I spent staring at that camera lens because I had been used to communicating with someone who has a soul inside there, right? And so this camera had no soul. And I was like, and so that's the way I got over it, was just sitting in front of it until finally I said, you're not so tough. And so I scooted back and I brought everybody in and then I recorded. So get close and then just stare it down until it's not upsetting you anymore, all right? The next thing is never speak below or above your audience. And it's hard when you've got a large audience, but that's one of the reasons that I walk around in an audience and find out what it is that they want or don't want. And so it's one of the primary things. You might not think of it this way, but anytime I create a video online to put on YouTube or whatever, I always have to start my presentation with the end. What do I want them to do? And then I go all the way back to the beginning and I say, who are they? And in whether it be product, whether it be business, it's still the same. Eugene Schwartz wrote a concept a long, long time ago, I think in the 30s. And it was that, and you might want to write these down. It's 5 of them. It's number 1 is the most aware, and that's your hot audience. That's your warm market. That's what's in your phone, your contacts. Number 2 is product aware. They're aware of your product and you. And then there's solution aware. In other words, there must be a solution to this particular problem that I'm having. But they're not aware of your product. So that's number 3. Number 4 is they are problem aware. Okay, so they know that they, let's say, have plaque in their artery. So they know of that problem, but they don't know how to get rid of it. And then they are completely unaware. And so that's the way I like to go into whenever I'm writing a presentation, is I will start with what I want at the end of it. And then I go back and I decide which audience I'm actually going to touch. If I do not know, I'm going to have a slide up there that gives the problem and then gives a solution and then differentiate between the solutions that are available. So that's the way I write all my content, and it doesn't have, if it has to do with anti-network marketers, or if it has to, whatever it is, I always follow that same curriculum. So those are my tips. And also,
I love it.
As you increase your ability to communicate, your ethics has to rise, because you now are able to move people, and you want to make sure you move them in a positive way.
I think you're absolutely right. A couple things that he talked about that I would add, and one of these things I do very, very well, and the other one I struggle with. Okay. First one is if you're talking to a camera, okay, if you're talking to a camera and you're struggling with that, like what Tim did is he just got close and he got comfortable with it, and eventually the intimidation went down. What really works well is imagine a real person that needs to hear the message that you're about to share, and talk like you're talking to that one person. Talk to that one person who's just happens to be on the other side of that camera, and your intimidation will go down dramatically. So that's the first tip. Okay. Imagine a person inside of that camera. Don't just think of it as a camera. The second tip, and this one I struggle with, but when I watch people like Emily, she's amazing at this. Look at the camera. Don't look at your screen when you're doing a Zoom. Look at the camera. Don't look at the screen when you're doing a Facebook Live. Remember your connection. The eyes are the window of the soul. Connect to the other person's eyes. Look there, and I'm always looking down, and I'm looking at my friends, and I'm looking at other stuff, and I forget. I constantly forget. But if you want to be a pro, look at the camera. Don't look at the screen. It's a different vibe. It's a different energy. All right, a couple things. We're going to go for about 16 more minutes. We'll finish at 12:30 Pacific. At the end of this, I'm going to let you know we're doing a presentation power 2-day workshop, actually a whole presentation power experience. If you want to learn how to become a better presenter, stay till 12:30 Pacific time, 16 minutes from now, and I'll share with you how you can be involved in that if you want to. It happens later this month, 23rd, 24th of February. It's going to be amazing. But I want to go back to our esteemed panel and see what other hacks they have. Emily, I want to know, let me ask a specific question of Emily. Okay. I want to know, you're really good at crafting iconic keynotes. Really good at that. You've developed a really strong skill at crafting iconic keynotes. How do you do that? What's your inspiration? How do you figure out what your theme's going to be? You know, do you think through what you're going to wear? All of that stuff. I know. It's a rhetorical question.
Yeah, I'll answer that. And then I do have a really good tip for everyone to really start practicing speaking as well. But when I'm crafting a keynote, I first of all look at the audience. What's the theme? Is it, a New Year's theme? Is it, and I ask whoever I'm speaking for, who's my audience and how can I best serve them? What are they looking for? And I allow them to tell me what the people are looking for. And then from there, I'm always having a theme to every single talk. It's not over till I win, how to get out of a slump. Like, I've done so many different themes. I've worn armor before, giving a presentation with a sword, talking about protecting yourself, putting on the armor, always doing little things like that. So it's memorable, whether it's a 30-minute, 60-minute, but what I do, it's a process. And I can very much relate to Stormy, how I go inward with it. And I know that if I'm not meditating, and for me, it's my relationship with God, then I am going to be a copycat of someone else. I am going to get frustrated and I'm just going to copy everybody else. And I'm not going to do what is in me, what I know is in me. And I have to pray to ask. And then I meditate, I download. And what I do is I brain dump and grab a notebook, just like Loren's talking about. I'm obsessed with my notebooks, and I just brain dump ideas around the talk. And then I craft, an intro, my 3 main points, and then my call to action at the end. And in the talk, I really try to have a story in there, of course, a story to relate, go to emotion. So if you've ever listen to me talk, like, sometimes what I do is I'll punch you, like I'll wake you up and tell you what's up, but I will hug you afterwards. And I try to kind of go through all the levels of emotion, because I believe it's such a better, more powerful experience when you're on the other end of that. And then, of course, add in some humor here or there. And yeah, for me, like, network marketing can be boring sometimes. So the style part of it, I love to find a great outfit, and it's that confidence. And you start to learn the more you present, what do you feel confident in on stage? And, just showing up, like, show up like Tom Brady. Like, that's my mindset. It really is. When I go into something and when I'm asked to do anything, I really try to honor the person that asked me and give it my all, whether it's my founders, whether it's a quick 5-minute Facebook Live that I'm going to do with somebody that is asking for an interview. That's what I try to do. But I will tell you, my secret sauce is getting quiet and shutting off all this and really just connecting and grounding. I live on the ocean, put my feet in the sand, and just connect. And that's where my power comes from. And that's where I feel like I am able to be creative. If I am hitting a little block, which happens, for me, like, my pastor is an author as well. And I read his books and I get, like, little messages here or there. I mean, Eric, there's been times where I'm doing a keynote and I'm like, I don't know where to go with this. And I'll put on GoPro, I'll go to YouTube, and I'll just get bits and pieces from great mentors that have gone before me. I don't copy them verbatim, though. I take what they say and I'll change it. and I'll edify them if I am dropping one of their quotes or whatever, of course. So that's how I put it together. And then I practice it because, like GoPro, we had 20 minutes on that stage and I'm not going to go over the time. That's so disrespectful. And not only are you losing the audience, there's money put into events and there's a whole program in place. And so I practice it. There's elements it's like skiing. You're going to hit your slopes, or your little pointers, right? Whatever, I'm not a big skier, but you get my point. I know my markers and I don't know it verbatim anymore because I let the spirit speak through me. And I know I'm kind of getting deep with you guys. I'm just telling you the truth. But I know my markers at least. So I know my story. I know my 3 main points of what do they need to remember that they need to decide, declare, develop themselves. That's it. That's all I knew for GoPro. And then what is the call to action? They need to do a declaration statement. And so that's all I really knew. And so once I know that, I'm able just to go skiing, and deliver. But how I got confident was practice. And first it was learning my opportunity presentation. And some of you don't want to learn your opportunity presentation because you've got hot shots that are doing it so well. And so what I did when I was hungry and coachable and all the things is I asked for the PowerPoint presentation and I printed it. And I would practice going through the PowerPoint. Now, some of you are in companies where it's 45 freaking slides. You got to trim the fat and just start with 10 slides and start with your story and then going in. And this is how I became masterful at knowing my company story, knowing the products, knowing how to get your products paid for, and then the comp plan, and then vision. And I was just like, bam, 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 thank you, ma'am. And I just started to really, get into it. And so that way, if I was literally, I've done presentations in the oddest places, in janitors' closets, at massage therapy studios, and I've done it in a pole dancing studio where the women work out. And my thing is I present even if it's 3 chicks or whatever, even if 2 of them aren't listening, I still give them my energy and my heart and my conviction, whether it's with you and thousands or a couple people. Because that one person could get it, that one person. And it's also helping you get good, get really, really, really good. So those are my tips.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Fabulous. And again, like you said, whether it's me selling to 75 people in a stadium or you having 5 people in a presentation and one of them's not listening, making sure that you present to the 4 of them aren't listening, but you make sure you present to the one that needed to hear it when you need to hear it. That's such a great, great discipline to be able to do, to realize it's not about you. It's about that one. One thing I just got to say real quick before we continue the discussion is on Facebook, there's a whole crew of scammers that are pretending to be me in different forms. Spelling my name different or putting some sort of tag onto their page, and they're trying to friend people up and scam people. So just know, because I'm watching in the comments, a bunch of people are saying, "Oh, I just got friended up." Well, the best way for you to be able to measure if it's me or not, I'm followed, because I don't max out my friends or whatever on my personal page, but I'm followed by about 180,000 people. So if whoever's friending you up is not followed by 180,000 people, they're probably trying to set you up for some sort of scam. So people get creative. If they use this creativity to build a network marketing business, they could own the world. But just know that that's out there. So my friends, who else wants to throw in some hacks and tips?
There's one hack I'd like to share, and it's called VAC. I don't know if anybody's familiar with VAC. It's called visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Sometimes we all kind of overuse one of those. Have you ever seen somebody that there's they're like nuclear visual, like crazy, crazy, crazy energy. And you see the audience just going, where the hell are they going with this? So be aware of, I think awareness, once again, go back to your audience and know your audience. And you might use a prop. You might bring just to slow yourself down as you kind of get used to it. If you're nervous, like doing your story, maybe bring a chair up there. If you're talking too fast, the chair can be a reminder for you to slow down when you're going too fast. Or sometimes if you really just want, like Emily's so great at that. I remember just seeing you at the last time, Emily, and she's very good at like using different tones, and then she'll slow down and then, or sit in a chair. And then that gets you to kind of, get everybody in the audience, if you would, to reach that. That's just that's one hack that I would go back to what Emily said. You got to practice over and over and over and over and over again, even if you feel like, because you're going to make so many great distinctions, or you're also going to see like something that I just did. You'll look for things that you do. Like I sometimes when I get nervous, I touch my hair a lot, right? So video yourself so you're aware of what you're doing. The other thing that I would say is look for, what are your pad words? You might have heard this before as well. Some people, when they don't know what to say, So, right.
Like,
so pad words. And when you're aware of your pad words, if you can learn just to take a breath and just stop for a second, because there's something that's called the power of the pause. Have you ever, Eric, you're great at this.
Margarita flatbread.
Right? I got margarita, but that's not. But the power of the pause is really important. Those are just a couple of things. And
yeah, let me offer. I want to come to Stormy in a second, but before we come to Stormy, the biggest hack in the world is a concept called plan, do, review. You're going to have lots of opportunities to practice. If you make a plan for your presentation, you do it. At the end of every presentation for the last 25 years of my life, no matter where it is, no matter what I'm doing, I review. Mm-hmm. What did I do? What did I do? What could I do better? What didn't work? What worked? What should I pay attention to? What can I repeat? Was my energy right? Was I smiling enough? Was I looking at the camera? I mean, all of it. I review every time, every event, every presentation. It is literally a reflex for me. And what Emily said, and also Loren said, is to change your cadence, change your audio levels, change your intensity. I had one person on the GoPro stage, I won't say who it was, but a couple of years ago, who just did this, and he just talked like this, and he talked like this, and he talked like this for 20 minutes, and he talked like this, and he talked like this, and he never changed his attention, and it was the same thing. And pretty soon you couldn't hear what he was talking about because it was the same thing he was talking about for 20 minutes, and that's what is 20 minutes.
No.
Every once in a while, he just needed to whisper. Needed to change it around. He needed to just, and then bring it back again if you need to. But there's an arc in a presentation. You know, you need to make sure that you're leading people to something. So think about that in plan, do, review. Think about that in the intensity. Some people are just over the top crazy intense, and it works for them. I'm not that person. I learned to use my own personality. I'll bring my own version of intensity, but it's not going to be, I'm not going to be Tony Robbins. Tony's Tony. I'm a little bit more Jim Rohn than I am Tony Robbins, right? So I pick my different styles and my different ways to communicate in what works for me. So Stormy, give some of the tips, because you're a very dynamic presenter.
Yes, I mean, well, so Emily and Loren, and I mean, they're saying some of the same thing that I have as my sentiments. But I can add a few things. You know, one of my things is you can't sell a dream looking like a nightmare. When people are looking at you, you should be something to look at. Give them something to look at. I watch you and Marina, and you guys are always super fly. I could always pick out nice little pieces that you have that pops, which I believe is a staple. It makes people remember you because of your style. I've seen people that would just show up to try to present, you know, you're trying to sell somebody on a dream, but you look like a nightmare. I think that's something that we should pay attention to. Even if your money is, you know, strapped, you could still find ways to get creative and look the part. I think that's important. One of the things that I also do is I believe in developing a level of trust with your audience through transparency. You know, tell them what's going on with you authentically. Don't always use things like you. I watch presenters speak and they always say you. And that makes people feel as if you're pointing the finger at them or you're blaming them or you're tearing them down. I like to say we, us, you know, to make it seem more inclusive. And you'll be surprised how it even, the presentation or whatever you're discussing will help you because you're including yourself. So it starts to impact you, the speaker, the presenter, because you feel as if you're speaking more inclusive, not just, you know, presenting to someone. Another thing that I could say that has helped me is I always speak with love. I always find ways to help people to believe in themselves. I find ways to share with them what I've been through personally, because I know that oftentimes people look at us as if we're very high, you know, in the sky, and we're not relatable. And so that's another thing that I pay attention to. I like to try to spend time with a lot of common people, a lot of normal people. And I don't want to offend anybody on the panel by this, but I want to say this. You know, we tend to be in this network marketing world that we don't know what's going on in the real world. So I like to ask questions. I like to find out, hey, what's going on? How much did that cost? You know, what are people thinking about right now? What do people talk about? You know, because I really don't really be in tune with what's happening in the world. So I find time to get with people who are still in the world, of the world, so I can know how to connect and talk to them from their level. And once I started to pay attention to that and make that a part of my patterns to really talk at that lower level, it helped me tremendously, you know. And I'm talking about when I say a hack, when I look at, I have a coaching program. I speak every morning. I go live all the time. And even when I think about what I heard Emily say, you know, she says so many powerful things. I love what she said. But speaking consistently, whether it's to a presentation, whether it's through, you know, you setting up a training call with your team, I think one of the things that we also can do, especially as we become high level or as you're growing, be consistent in speaking publicly, because either you use it or you lose it. If you don't consistently use your speaking voice, if you don't consistently use your presentation voice, whether you're making a mistake, whether you're accurate in your speaking, if you don't use it, you will lose it. And so when you learn something new, I believe implement it immediately. When you learn something new, you hear a new joke, implement it immediately, but find ways to tweak the joke to make it conducive to your audience. Because of course, the joke that I would say to the people that I connect with in my team will not be the same joke I say to Tony and Sarah. They may be like, what are you talking about? So be careful with the jokes that you say and the time that you say them in and the audience in which you say them to. And I will say definitely making sure that you don't sell a dream looking like a nightmare. Be something to look at. Be something to look at as you're presenting. Pay attention to your smile. You know, I love the power in the pause. You know, find time to breathe. And truthfully, find ways to, of course, consistently practice your craft so that you don't lose your power. Because we can. And I've been that person before, Eric, that I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to present anymore. Oh my God, I forgot my company's presentation, for real. And so I try to find ways to present all the time, even though I'm a top earner. I don't stop because I don't ever want to be embarrassed or caught in a space where somebody else can present better than me. That's not cool. So, you know, yeah.
I love it. Love it. Let's bring everybody up on the grid. I'm going to ask each of you to just kind of give a final thoughts as far as for this audience to be able to learn how to be more effective presenters, what your thoughts are, what your advice is to them. And when they're done, we have some people who won the My Story Challenge. You know, we had thousands of people tell their story on video this week. And we have some people who have won that challenge. So we're going to let you know who those people are when everybody's done. And we're also going to invite the winners back tomorrow to get coached on their story live to the world. So it's going to be cool. And then we'll tell you about the presentation power experience. It's going to happen February 23rd and 24th of this month when that's done. So let's start with Tim Sales. What's your final thoughts for everybody?
All right. Well, my final thoughts are kind of what I started with, is that you have to do this. You have to become a good presenter. And I'm saying it from experience of not wanting it, not wanting to go through all of that effort. And the reason that I said to Eric, I go, why in the world would you talk about a topic that so few people want to know? right? And he said exactly that, right? So few want to know, but it's everything. And I do believe it's everything because it has helped with my relationships at home. It has helped with my children. If you don't think you need to learn to present, wait until you try to get your kids to learn math or history or science or physics or whatever it is. It's a presentation. It's a sales pitch, okay? So I will just tell you, take the time, go through the effort because it'll reward you in such a huge way.
Darnell Self.
Yes, sir. One, I would say, set a goal, right? Don't allow this workshop to fall on deaf ears and there be no execution behind it, right? And so if you've never given a testimony, if you've never done a part of a presentation, call your leadership and mentorship and say, hey, look, I was a part of this GoPro workshop on the power of presentation, and by February the 18th, I'd like to be able to share a testimony, right? And let them work with you to do that. So just don't say, someday, one day I will, because so many of us hear that. And unfortunately, the longer it takes for you to do it, the more likely you are not to do it, right? The law of diminishing intent. And so I would say do that. The second thing I would say is to find someone who you respect, who's going to give you feedback at the end of whatever you're presenting. And it has to be someone you respect. Otherwise, it comes across like, well, they beat up on me. I never want to do this again, because you feel beat up on. And no one ever wants to do something again if they felt like they were beat down by the first time they did it. And so by someone. So I would say find someone you respect and ask them, say, look, I give you permission to give me honest feedback, and make sure someone knows how to give feedback, like at least the sandwich technique, and tells you some good things, but also tells you things that could be better. So that's what I would recommend.
Wonderful. Loren.
My advice would be, it's a must, because you never know. You never know what you might say will impact somebody. It could change someone's life. It could change who that they have an interaction with. And it's your responsibility. I mean, we get into this beautiful profession is by sharing your story and sharing what it's really all about. And the other thing that I would say, be you. You're not is to waste the person you are. And the world is waiting for you to share your story. As you always share with us, Eric, we can always be better. You share with everybody, great, but we can always be better. And presentation skills will show up everywhere.
All right, Loren, I think we lost you, or at least you're in a rough sell spot. Let's go to Tony and Sarah.
Well, I want to piggyback on what Darnell talked about. I think it's really important to we actually created a presentation school, and it made it really fun for everybody. So I would encourage you, for those of you that are, maybe just starting to build a team, or you've got a bigger team and you want to really raise leadership, is, that presentation school is so fun. It creates amazing camaraderie. Everyone gets to, practice one part of the presentation. They get to love each other. They're in an environment they feel safe. Presentation school for us, oh my gosh, there's so many incredible presenters that came from that. And then number two, know that your story is always evolving, right? So, those of you that are brand new, you might be thinking, well, I don't have this amazing story of all the success, etc. But you have to understand, my story has been evolving for 20 years. Like every experience, everything I've gone through, everything I've grown through, the good, the bad, the all the above, all of that is part of the story. So understand, there's so many incredible, pieces that are being created in your story. You just have to remember that. And, just getting out there and starting is just the most important piece.
Yeah, Eric, I would say keep pushing yourself every day to become a better presenter. And, there's a couple things there. One, you can practice a lot and work on yourself and, just, follow people that do it well, learn from them, watch their presentations. And then also don't be afraid to invest in programs and invest in things that are going to speed up your presentation, are going to help you really craft it better, give you the framework better, be able to execute it better, be able to have results better. And that's why I'm so excited for them to hear what you've put together with Pat and Pete, because it's the best thing out there.
Great. Thank you. Stormy.
Awesome. Well, again, we're all feeling and saying the same things that just go to show you that success is definitely duplicated. I have 3 things that I would say. Number one, be here 1 year from now. Whatever you're doing, whatever company you're in, be there 1 year from now and grow in your authenticity. Oftentimes we grow, but we grow unauthentically and we're not who we really are. And so it doesn't really stick because you're trying to be somebody else. No, grow as yourself. The second thing I would say is pick a champion. I heard Tony say that, pick a champion or a coach. I believe in collapsing decades and today's. And so I read books every day. I listen to audio every day. I meditate every day. I practice my craft every single day. 365. There is no days off for Stormy because I know that, you get comfortable in this industry and you could get into some tough times. So I'm always moving, always grooving. And number 3, the speed of implementation creates group momentum. Put in the work. Do it now. Do it scared. And one of the things I can say that has helped me tremendously is not being afraid to say, I'm not the greatest presenter, but I want to share with you from my heart. Tell people that, hey, I don't know all of the facts, but I want to share with you from my heart. And people would warm up to you and want to almost hug you because they know that you're sharing with them from your heart. So those are my 3 takeaways. Today was awesome. I got notes and everything. So thank you all for contributing to me growing as well in the industry. So thank you.
And you're welcome. That's what makes you a great presenter. You present from the heart. Emily.
I would say set a deadline for yourself to get into action. One of the best things in my life is deadlines. I don't know about you guys, but when I have to have something ready to go by Monday, I'm able to put myself into it and get it done. And so what I would say is text your mentor, your upline, even just someone in your business, and figure out what you can do, in the next week where you can present. And maybe you're green, you're new, and it's going to be your story. Maybe it's your team call and you send your mentor a voice message right now and just say, can I introduce you on the team call Monday night? Or find a creative way. And I know you're freaking out when I'm telling you this right now, but that's why you need to do it. So accountability, ask someone, can I share? For us, we do these core commitments, and maybe there's a flow in your business that's already going. Maybe you can train on one of the skills, but ask, put yourself in that growth environment and set the date. Otherwise it's never going to happen. So that's what I would say.
I love it. And I want to thank all of you, Tim Sales, Tony and Sarahzalecki, Emily Vavra, Darnell Self, Stormy Wellington, Loren Lahav. You're all servant leaders. I appreciate you so much. I want to tell everybody now about the GoPro Presentation Power Experience that's happening February 23rd and 24th, and invite you to be a part of it. If you want to learn this presentation skill, this is the fastest way I know for you to be able to learn it. We talked over the course of this week about the 5 presentations that you need to learn. And you throw that slide up, Alexi. Your story, the perfect presentation, getting started presentation, skills training, and your signature talk. February 23rd and 24th, over 2 days in our big crazy studio, we're going to take this from a to-do list to a to-done list where it's done. At the end of these 2 days, it's done. These 5 presentations are locked down. You know exactly what to do, and you have exactly what you need to go practice as you leave there. But in addition to that, not only do I want you to be a part of that, we have a whole bunch of extra bonuses. Pete Vargas and Pat Quinn, who trained at GoPro and trained some of the top presenters in the world, coach some of the top presenters in the world, are throwing in a whole bunch of bonuses. And if you can throw up the list of those bonuses. So we got the Presentation Power Workshop, 6 weeks of coaching starting the week after the workshop from Pete and Pat on how you can put your presentation together, a 2-day immersive experience with them while they record a new network marketing edition of their course, Stage to Scale, the actual course itself, which is $3,000, the recordings from what we did in January to help you have an emotional transformation All of this together is like $24,000 worth of stuff, but we want as many people as possible to be a part of this. So we've created a very easy way for you to be a part of it. Throw that up. You can either make 4 payments of $897 and be a part of this whole presentation power experience and totally accelerate your presentation skills, or you can pay it in full, $2,950. Either way, it's like $3,000, or you do a payment plan, or you pay it in full, or you do a payment plan. But what's the link? Can you throw the link up? Is there a link on there somewhere? I can't see it. Networkmarketingpro.com/challenge is where you go to get that. If you want to learn what these people know, if you want to be able to experience what they experience, you need to be a part of this. People in the GoPro Accelerator program are already a part of it. You need to be a part of it. I think we have Pete here. Pete Vargas, are you here?
Yeah,
Can you talk, Pete? Yeah, I put you on the spot, but I saw you lurking there in the background. Tell people what they might be able to learn from being a part of this, what it could do for their business.
Yeah, listen, this is what I'd say. I've been hearing the last half hour, and I haven't gotten a chance to meet Tim or Loren, and so getting to hear them today has been really cool. And when I came into the industry, obviously some of Tim's work impacted me. But this is what I want to say about the others that I do know. I remember when I first spoke with Tony and Sarah at your house, and I remember boxing Pat Quinn. And I said, Pat, these two are powerhouses. They're rock stars. And when they come out to Milwaukee, which the two of them made a major investment to go out there, I was like, you can take them to like a whole nother level. Like they're rock stars. Like it was so obvious what they had invested already in their presentation power. After I heard Stormy on the challenge, I text my buddy Johnny Wimbry, who you know, Eric. I was like, do you know the Stormy girl? She is the real.
Everybody knows Stormy.
Yeah. Well, he's like, and he goes, she is. She speaks from her heart. She's the real deal. I remember hearing Darnell at GoPro and him walking off. I was like, dude, that was incredible. Like I didn't get the chance to have a conversation with them, but I remember him walking off the stage on day one. I remember it. And then I remember Emily, and I was in the trailer with you, Eric, and I was watching her on the screen. I'm like, OMG, like, are you kidding me? So much so that I reached out to her after she messaged me, which is an abnormal thing. I'm like, the way you showed up was so powerful. Like Stormy said, success leaves clues. That doesn't come easily. That doesn't come overnight. That comes with the reps. That comes with the practice. That comes with putting the reps in. And that to me is what we're going to do in 2 days. That is what we're going to do in 2 days. And the best story I can share of this, my son, who does not have a lot of confidence, and he's a 12-year-old boy. He's dealing with a lot of stuff going on up here in his head. So I took him to California this past week at the Super Bowl to stay with one of my buddies who is a pool shark. And Keith took him over to a guy by the name of Garrett White's house. Some of you might know Garrett White, warrior. And so Keith all weekend worked with Keaton. And like literally Keaton had never played a game of pool. And he's going over in a tournament of four people last night with 2 days of practice at Keith's house. And Keith said, Pete, this kid was up till 10 o'clock practicing. Garrett White shoots me a message last night. He said, you're not going to believe this. Keaton beat my son, Keaton beat me, and Keaton beat Keith. And the first thing I thought, Eric, was like, yeah, right. They're like playing with me. They're messing around with me. And then Keith gets on the phone and said, Pete, I'm not kidding you. Like what your son accomplished in 2 days, he literally beat all three of us. You could take him to a bar and hustle people for money. That's what I believe in. I kid you not. I bought a pool table today. Keith is bringing him back from California. There's going to be a pool table in my house today because my son put in the reps of 2 days. Dad's going to go and freaking get his butt kicked now, but dad's going to make some money when he goes and takes him to some of the sports bars here in town. But that's what's about to happen, Eric, in 2 days. Dude, the reps that we're going to put in those 2 days, Eric, people are going to be uncomfortable having to share their story multiple times. But Keith said that to me today. He's like, because of what your son did, because he was teachable, he was coachable, he listened to what I taught him, he stayed up till 10 o'clock practicing it. It literally paid off the next day. And that's what I believe is about to happen, Eric, on the 23rd, 24th, 24th.
Yeah, I just tell you, the presentation power whole experience is designed to put you in the deep end of the pool and then not leave you there. It's designed to help you master the skill. And what I hope you've heard from myself and from all these other presenters is you could divide their income by 20 times probably if they didn't learn how to present, if they didn't learn how to communicate, if they didn't learn how to share their vision, to how to be able to share their story, how to be able to teach other people how to do the same thing. That's what we're going to try and, well, not try and do. That's what we're going to do over the course of 2 days, and then a whole bunch of follow-up. It's like I say, $24,000 worth of stuff you can get for $3,000 if you want to be a part of this. Now, this is either a decision, it's going to be a natural fit for you or not. You either want to solve this problem or you don't. You either want, the most valuable thing in the world, you know what it is? What do you think it is? Most valuable thing in the world. Put in the comments what you think the most valuable thing in the world is. Time. You want to take 3 years to figure this out, or you want to get it done in 6 weeks? It's the most valuable thing in the world, time. This will compress time and get you into excellence faster. So networkmarketingpro.com/challenge. Put that link up again. networkmarketingpro.com/challenge will get you into this program where we can accelerate time. We can compress time. We can get you to excellence faster. Okay? So I hope you're a part of that. I hope you take advantage of it. For those that are already, I can't wait to see you on the 23rd and 24th. Now, last thing, Pete and Pat are going to be going through 10 different story people and coaching them live tomorrow, right? Wherever you're watching this. We have runner-up and winners, but we haven't heard back from all the winners yet. So the first 10 people who get back to us are going to be the first of these 20. First 10 people, take a screenshot of this if you know somebody on this list. First 10 people who get back to us, and you need to send an email to ticketing@networkmarketingpro.com. Ticketing@networkmarketingpro.com. Send an email to that. The first 10 people to send us an email from this either runner-up list or winner list is going to be coached live tomorrow with Pete and Pat. This is the runner-up list. Take a screenshot if you know them. And then here's the winner list. Here's the 10 winners. Take a screenshot of that. First 10 people in these top 20 that get back to us is going to be coached by Pete and Pat live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific time. They're going to listen to the story. They're going to give feedback. It's going to be a great exercise for all of you to learn how you can be more effective in telling your story. So that's what we have. Email ticketing at Network Marketing Pro for that. And for the presentation power, go to networkmarketingpro.com/challenge. Okay, that's it. Thanks again, Tony and Sarah, Pete, Emily, Stormy, Loren, Tim, Darnell. I appreciate all of you. And thanks for your servant leadership. Thanks for your contribution. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody. Mwah.